FutureDad 28, How to Become Financially Free, Part 1. Quote, how much money is enough? The interviewer. Just a little bit more. John D. Rockefeller. When I was 24, I worked in an investment bank in the City of London. One day I was called by a man offering to help me invest. I was naive and very arrogant, and I thought, what could he possibly tell me about investment? I was curious though, so I arranged to meet him. I expected to teach him a thing or two because of my impressive high-flying job. At the meeting he asked me what my assets were. I cited some meagre savings and my modest 5-year-old sports car, which still had a few dozen payments to make on it. I was taken aback when he said that the car wasn't an asset. In fact, he said it was practically the opposite. It was losing me money, both in terms of the interest on the repayments and also that it was depreciating in value over time. This discussion went on to highlight several other failings in my personal financial health. By the end of the meeting, my ego was deservedly bruised and I realized I was broke. Unfortunately for me, not to the point that I would make any lasting changes, especially not to my lifestyle. I enjoyed my life too much as a weekend millionaire, and I didn't have the wisdom yet to look long term. But at least one outcome served me in that meeting. It completely quashed any notion that I was wealthy. As it turned out, he had taught me a thing or two. My naivety and ignorance weren't entirely of my own making. No one in my family knew anything about money, other than working to pay for bills. My friends were all in the same boat, all driven by the payment of ever more, ever-growing bills. Nor was the concept of financial management and long-term investment taught at school, not even a single rudimentary class. One obvious reason for this, one could speculate, is that teachers are not investment professionals. However, you do not have to have a CFA charter to grasp and therefore teach basic principles about the time value of money, portfolio diversification, and tax. It's a 1-hour lesson at best. In case you're curious, there's a deeper, more foundational reason for investment principles not being taught in schools, especially public schools. This will come as no surprise to anyone who has read FutureDad 11, Why Government is So Dangerous. It is that school is an arm of the government, and government is not incentivized to make you financially free. In fact, they may lose revenue and support when you are independently wealthy and unplugged. The cathedral wanted you nice and dumb from cradle to grave, and they usually get what they want. Essentially, you can never count on an individual or an institution to help you when it contradicts their true goal. Put differently, never trust a man whose mortgage repayments depend on telling you a lie. In the case of government, their primary goals are to 1. Sustain themselves financially, 2. Grow bigger in scope and power, and 3. Control what you say and do whenever it threatens 1 or 2. Otherwise, if you follow their teachings, or lack thereof, you will be an obedient, paying customer for life. I say all this to make you understand that it is not embarrassing to not know the basics of investing. At school you learn Pythagoras' theorem, and you instinctively knew it for the rest of your adult life. What if you didn't learn it at school? Do you think years later you'd be constructing flat-pack furniture and you'd realise how to determine the wardrobe's diagonal length without measurement? You probably wouldn't. So you must recognise and accept right now that you have a massive blind spot when it comes to creating financial freedom. That makes you even more biased before you start to invest. To discover how to recognise and minimise your bias, see FutureDad 39, Know Your Skin in the Game. We all have bias, some more than others. But as of now, you're investing wearing a blindfold and a sign on your back which says, kick me. It will be painful to unlearn that, and yet that is the first step. So delete what you think you know about being financially successful, because chances are you won't have learned anything useful and your mind will instinctively jump to bad examples. When you see a social media influencer or a footballer in a Lambo, that's not an example of financial freedom. That may seem rich or wealthy, using those approximate definitions. But if some scandal hits or they get injured, they might end up as broke as a person living paycheck to paycheck. Not just because of poor financial habits, but because of a societal level misapprehension of wealth in thinking that it's just your bank balance. There are two main parts to becoming financially free: the income and the expenditure. Both impact the possibility of financial freedom, but the latter is crucial. To talk about one without the other is like running a bath and ignoring the plug hole. We start with a simple premise. Financial freedom is when the choice of what to do with your time is always entirely your own. You will, by the Financial Freedom Day, FFD, be using the following mechanism. Your income will be spread over several passive sources and is sufficient to meet your lifestyle needs forever after inflation. All the days before then are the accumulation phase. During the accumulation phase, the phase you're in now, the emphasis is on expenditure control. Not only to allow you the space to pay down debt and then invest, but also to get your habits aligned with a maintenance lifestyle. This means making the lifestyle expenditure side as low and as consistent as possible in a way that services your long-term contentment. Note I didn't say long-term happiness. Happiness is a transient emotion. You will feel happy some days and not others. That has nothing to do with your long-term state of mind. The happy discovery you will eventually make is that it takes surprisingly low expenditure to feel content. Read FutureDad 7 Superpowers Part 1 Minimalism and FutureDad 23 Habits Part 2 How to Create Good Habits for more guidance on this. Once you understand that, look at your current expenses and where it trickles into the toxic sludge which is your debt. Look at all your debt, including good debt like mortgage. What is the interest rate? If it is more than 5%, you are unlikely to earn more than that rate consistently without risk. So cut your expenses to the bone until you start to reduce that toxic sludge. At this point, your excusitis may flare up. But I need my morning Starbucks. The fact that you think you need it is the source of the problem. This too requires a reset. Once you pledge to reduce the debt and start doing so, means we can look at the investment side. The magic of compounding means that to achieve the income you need post FFD, you need to start as young as possible. If you're not young, start now anyway. No excuses. Investing means regular purchase of shares in at least 24 funds and ETFs spread across several regions, segments and markets. Check the funds which automatically accumulate pre-FFD, so any gains or dividends will be reinvested back into each fund. Do all this in a tax-efficient manner. That means investing in the right vehicle which transports your money to the return investment gain. That means in a company pension to the maximum of your limit of annual salary sacrifice and your lifetime limit. The next best vehicle would be a tax-protected vehicle like an ISA in the UK. Note it doesn't matter for either if this is only £10 a month. The very fact that you have started means that you have pressed the button on the quiet countdown to being financially free. If you don't, there is no countdown. And most ironically and tragically of all, you won't even notice the difference day to day of that small sacrifice to make that investment. You will end up always having to rely on someone else for your economic liberty and beholden to others for your freedom. So start now. There's no such thing as later when it comes to financial freedom. I'll see you in FutureDad 64, How to Become Financially Free Part 2. FutureDad.